That's right. Thanks very much, Michelle. And that's because it was a couple of years back, South Africa moving from a source-based to a residency-based or residence-based tax system. The question, of course, is what are the implications for people who are hoping to move out of South Africa for whatever reason and for whatever duration? As you mentioned, Hugo Van Zyl is our guest. He's a tax specialist joining us on the Dubai desk. And once again, thank you very much for coming through. So let's begin by just defining some of the terms that I came across. There are people who are tax residents and those who are taxpayers. Very quickly, what's the difference?
Okay, so taxpayer is anyone who has South African sourced income. It comes from, so the source principle is still there. But a resident is anyone who's ordinarily resident, been there about 5 years, so it's or you're ordinarily home. The home you go to at the end of all your journeys. Right. So you're going to retire in South Africa. Doesn't matter where you live, makes you a resident. So all these changes started March 2001.
Right.
Then in March 2020, so we call it tax 2020, that's where it comes from. And we're saying March, but it's the tax year that's February 21. We have this strange system. We are now filing February 2021.
Gotcha.
So it's from that March of February 2020. Government then decided, National Treasury, to expand this residency basis and include the expats. In the past, if you were out of South Africa 183 days, of which 60 days was continuous, then you're tax exempt on your salary. You still had to pay tax on your investment income and everything else, but your salary, remuneration, was excluded. And now since March last year, included. And you can get a credit for the tax you pay in your country of residence, like UK. But as you know, in Dubai, we only pay VAT. We don't pay income tax.
Sure.
So it really hits the poor South Africans living here. Everything they earn above 1.25 million is taxed at normal tax rates. So to give you an idea, when I came here 3-4 years back the first time, 3 Rand 88 to the dirham. Now sometimes 4 Rand 12. So that 1.25 million in dirhams is shrinking all the time because the dirham is 3.67 to the dollar. It's fixed to the dollar.
All right, let's distill this a bit more in case we're losing anybody who's watching. What are the implications, for instance, if I'm a South African today wanting to live in Dubai because of these tax changes?
So you first of all need that EID, the Emirates ID. That plastic card is extremely important. That, once you've been here 183 days, can get a tax domicile certificate, and then you exit. You cease to be a South African tax resident.
Gotcha.
But there's a price. You have to pay an exit tax. And always the exit tax up till now, until February next year, is on your assets worldwide. And now there's a proposal that came through in July to say even your South African pension funds that used to be tax-free will now be subject to a notional tax. They'll calculate the tax, but you'll only pay it one day when you retire or resign from the fund. So that's caused a big upset because, you know, traditionally pension funds was your tax-free little old nest egg. So government is continuously expanding what is included in that residence because we are on a residence basis subject to certain exclusions, and that's getting less and less.
Sure. The advice I've found that you're giving is that if people are planning to leave the country for whatever reason, they should actually cash out on their retirement and not necessarily move it to some other unit.
Very interesting, yeah. Very, very interesting. We have another exemption. Remember, we have all these exemptions, and that's where we as tax advisors make our money, but then we need the investment advisors next to us because I'm not an investment advisor. If you're in the UAE and you join a pension fund, which is not compulsory here, but you then join an international pension fund, if you contributed from outside South Africa and you only contribute from outside, when you one day return to South Africa, that pension is tax-free. So now with this new proposal, they're going to tax you on your lump sum as if you took it, and then when you retire, they tax you again. So you're facing, as the law stands at the moment, 36% now and then a sliding scale when you retire. Where if you take that money, put it in a hard currency, purely from a tax perspective, it is far better than a South African pension at the moment. It's sad. It's hurting our fund managers, I think. But purely from a tax perspective, the foreign one or offshore one is more tax efficient.
Yeah. Do you have any idea why government is expanding what is taxable in some instance? Why these changes are taking place, considering the adverse effects that they're having, especially for poor South Africans?
Yeah, so interesting, it's on the pensions, they specifically state it's because the double tax treaty says when you, for example, go to Australia, your annual monthly pension is tax-free in South Africa. Although you got the deduction in South Africa, there's no way SARS can tax you because then Australia tax you because that's your tax home. So it's that disparity they want to fix. So remember, if you are coming back to South Africa one day to retire, you remain resident unless you can show a tax domicile or a residency certificate of another treaty country. So in treaty countries, it's easy to exit. But I think the other part is they need that cash. They need to balance that. And remember, we are looking at wealth taxes, and pension fund to an extent is wealth. So either we're going to get a new wealth tax or we expand the tax on wealth.
Sure. All interesting stuff, and I imagine there's going to be an opportunity to ventilate these issues with the time we have together. Thanks very much indeed for breaking down just the basics for us, and hopefully we'll dive deeper at a different opportunity.
Enjoyed Dubai. It's really fun being here. Thank you so much, Leon.
Thank you very much. Hugo Van Zyl, a tax specialist, helping us understand some of the different tax laws, especially if you're considering leaving South Africa for whatever reason to go live in another country.